The communication screen flickered to life in the command center of Luna Station, casting an eerie blue glow across Admiral Jake Morrison's weathered face. He had been expecting this call, though he hoped it would never come. General Lisa Carter stood beside him, her hand resting on her sidearm out of habit. Chief Engineer Tony Rodriguez monitored the incoming signal strength from his console, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. The alien that appeared on screen was tall and thin, with silver skin that seemed to shimmer like liquid metal. Its eyes were large and completely black, showing no emotion as it spoke. This was Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire, and Jake knew this conversation would change everything. "Humans of Earth," the alien began, its voice carrying a strange musical quality that somehow sounded threatening. "I speak for the Galactic Council and the mighty Zephyrian Empire. Your species has spread too far, too fast across our galaxy. You build colonies where you should not. You mine resources that belong to others. You disturb the natural order that has kept peace for 10,000 years. Dr. Amy Walsh, the station's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward in her chair. She had studied alien behavior for 15 years, and she could see the fear hidden beneath the ambassador's calm words, the way its fingers twitched, how it avoided direct eye contact even through the screen. This was not just anger speaking. This was terror. "The Council has decided," Veltar continued. "You have exactly 72 hours to abandon all human settlements beyond your sol system. Every colony, every mining station, every research outpost must be evacuated. Your people must return to Earth and Mars and never leave again. This is not a negotiation. This is your final warning." The screen filled with images of the alien fleet, thousands of ships arranged in perfect formation at the edge of human space. Their vessels were sleek and organic-looking, like giant silver fish swimming through the darkness of space. Energy. Readings showed weapons that could crack planets in half. "If you refuse," the ambassador said, "we will destroy every human presence in the galaxy. Your colonies will burn. Your ships will be turned to dust. Your people will learn that there are consequences for defying the natural order." Jake felt the eyes of everyone in the command center on him. Captain Ben Hayes had been recalled from deep space and was watching from the communication panel. Commander Kate Sullivan stood near the tactical display, her face pale but determined. These were good people, brave people, and they deserved better than to be bullied by aliens who thought humans were just primitive animals. "Ambassador," Jake said calmly, his voice steady despite the rage building in his chest. "Thank you for delivering your message. The United Defense Command will need time to consider your terms. We are not a species that makes important decisions quickly." The alien's black eyes narrowed. "You have 72 hours, not 1 minute more. Use this time wisely, human. Choose survival over pride." The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The only sounds were the quiet hum of the stations, life support systems, and the distant rumble of ships docking in the lower bays. "Well," Lisa said finally, "I guess we know where we stand." "Do we really have that many colonies out there?" Ben asked. "I mean, enough to threaten their entire galactic order?" Amy shook her head. "It's not about the colonies, it's about what we represent. Humans adapt quickly. We learn fast. We build things they never thought possible. In 50 years we went from barely reaching our own moon to having settlements in 12 different star systems. That scares them." Tony pulled up a holographic display showing human expansion across known space. "Look at this. Every red dot is a human settlement. Every blue dot is an alien world. See the pattern?" Jake studied the display. Human colonies formed a rough line pushing outward from Earth, following the galaxy's spiral arm toward the core worlds where the older alien species lived. It looked like humanity was marching straight toward their most important systems. "They think we're coming for them," Kate realized. "They think this is all planned, that we're building up for some kind of invasion." "Are we?" Ben asked quietly. Jake looked at each of them in turn. These people had served with him for years. They trusted him to make the hard choices, to keep humanity safe when others wanted to destroy them. Now he had to make the hardest choice of all. "No," he said. But we're not backing down either. He walked to the command console and entered his personal authorization code. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a single red button marked with symbols that most people in the room had never seen before. "Sir?" Lisa said, her voice uncertain. "Is that what I think it is?" "Protocol 7, Jake confirmed. "The last resort. We hoped we'd never need." Amy frowned. "I've never heard of Protocol 7. "Most people haven't," Jake replied. "It was authorized by the Global Defense Council 10 years ago, back when we first made contact with alien species. Some very smart people realized that if we ever faced a threat we couldn't handle with conventional forces, we might need something more." His finger hovered over the button. Once he pressed it, there would be no going back. The galaxy would learn what humans were really capable of when their survival was threatened. "What exactly does Protocol 7 do?" Tony asked. Jake looked out, through the station's main viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, alien fleets were preparing to wipe out every trace of human civilization. Families on distant colonies were going about their daily lives, not knowing that death was coming for them in less than 3 days. "Protocol 7, he said, "releases our war machines." Before anyone could ask what that meant, he pressed the button deep beneath the surface of Mars in facilities so secret that most of Earth's government didn't know they existed. Ancient systems came to life. Warning lights flashed in empty corridors. Massive doors that had been sealed for years began to open, and in the darkness, something stirred. The message went out on channels, so classified they didn't officially exist. To research stations, mining, facilities, and military bases across human space, a single phrase was transmitted: "The children are coming home." Jake turned back to his staff. "Now we wait, and we pray that our enemies don't realize what they've started until it's too late." Outside, the stars continued to shine, unaware that in 72 hours the galaxy would never be the same. The message arrived at Facility Omega exactly 17 minutes after Admiral Morrison pressed the button. Dr. Rick Palmer was in his office reviewing research data when every screen in the complex suddenly flashed red. The automated voice that filled the corridors was calm and mechanical, but Rick felt his blood turn cold at the words. "Protocol 7 is now active. All personnel report to primary stations. Initiation sequence begins in 60 seconds. Rick ran down the metal hallway, his footsteps echoing off the walls. Other scientists and technicians were running too, their faces showing the same mix of excitement and terror that Rick felt. They had all known this day might come, but hoping and knowing were very different things. Colonel Steve Brooks was already in the main control room when Rick arrived, his uniform perfectly neat despite having been woken from sleep only minutes before. The soldier had been in charge of Facility Omega for 3 years, and in all that time he had never seen the machines they were built to guard. "Doctor," Steve said without turning around, "are your teams ready?" Rick looked at the massive doors set into the far wall of the control room. Behind those doors lay humanity's greatest secret and possibly its salvation. "As ready as we can be for something we've only read about in files." Lieutenant Nina Foster was at her console, monitoring systems that had been dormant for a decade. Her screens showed power levels, temperature readings, and dozens of other measurements that meant nothing to most people, but everything to the small group of scientists who had designed what lay beyond those doors. "Power systems online," she reported. "Quantum processors initializing. Neural networks establishing primary connections." The doors began to open. They were huge doors, 50 feet tall and 20 feet wide, made of metal that could withstand nuclear explosions. As they slid apart, lights came on in the chamber beyond, revealing something that made everyone in the control room stop breathing. The first war machine stood 30 meters tall, its body shaped roughly like a human, but built from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Its head was angular and smooth, with glowing blue sensors where eyes might be. Its arms ended in hands that could probably crush a car, but they moved with surprising grace as the machine flexed, its fingers for the first time in years. "Warden is online," Nina said, her voice barely above a whisper. "All systems operating within normal parameters." The machine-designated Warden turned its head toward the control room. When it spoke, Its voice was deep and resonant, carrying the weight of authority that made everyone in the room stand straighter. "Dr. Palmer," it said, somehow knowing exactly who was in charge. "How long have I been asleep?" 10 years, 4 months, 16 days, Rick replied. "We built you and then hoped we would never need to wake you up." "I remember," Warden said. "The Titan Project, the last resort. And now you have awakened me, which means humanity faces a threat it cannot handle through conventional means. What is our situation?" Before Rick could answer, more doors were opening throughout the facility. Captain Dan Cooper was leading security teams through the lower levels, ensuring that no unauthorized personnel could access the awakening chambers. He could hear the sounds of massive machinery coming online, the deep vibrations of power systems that had waited years for this moment. In Chamber 2, the machine called Guardian stretched its limbs and ran diagnostic checks on its weapon systems. Its design was different from Warden's, more compact but somehow more threatening, with armor that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. "Guardian reporting operational status," it announced to the control room. "All weapon systems functional. Quantum disruptors charged and ready. Awaiting mission parameters." Chamber 3 held Sentinel, a machine built for speed and reconnaissance. Its frame was sleeker than the others, designed for rapid movement through space and atmosphere. When it activated, the first thing it did was extend sensor arrays that could detect enemy movements across entire star systems. "Sentinel online," it reported. "Long-range sensors active. I am detecting multiple alien fleets at the edge of our solar system. Approximately 3,000 ships, various classifications. They appear to be preparing for systematic assault." The last chamber held Reaper, and everyone in the control room held their breath as its doors opened. This machine was built for one purpose only: the complete destruction of enemy forces. Its body was covered in weapon ports and targeting systems, and when its eyes lit up, they glowed red instead of blue. "Reaper functioning at full capacity," it said, its voice carrying a mechanical hunger that made several technicians step back from their consoles. "Enemy targets identified. Requesting permission to engage." "Wait," Rick said quickly. He turned to Colonel Brooks. "Sir, we need to brief them on the current situation before we release them." Steve nodded and stepped forward. "Machines, you are being activated because an alien alliance has demanded that humanity abandon all colonies beyond Earth and Mars. They have given us 72 hours to comply or face total extermination. Their fleet significantly outnumbers our conventional forces. Warden processed this information for exactly 3 seconds. Understood. The enemy believes humanity to be weak and defenseless. This assumption will be corrected. What are our operational parameters?" "Protect human lives and human territory," Steve said. "Use whatever force is necessary to ensure our survival as a species." "Acceptable," Guardian said. "We will require updated tactical information on enemy ship capabilities and human colony locations." Nina was already uploading the data through quantum links that connected directly to the machine's processing cores. In seconds, each war machine had absorbed hundreds of years of human military history, detailed scans of alien technology, and complete maps of human space. "Information received and analyzed," Sentinel reported. "The enemy has made several tactical errors. They have approached our solar system in formation patterns that suggest they expect no significant resistance. They have not deployed long-range scouts. They appear to be treating this as a routine extermination rather than a military campaign." Reaper's red eyes grew brighter. "They will learn the difference." Rick watched the machines communicate with each other through data streams too, fast for human minds to follow. In milliseconds, they developed and refined battle plans that would have taken human generals weeks to create. These were not just weapons. They were the combined military genius of every great human commander in history, given physical form, and armed with technology that pushed the boundaries of physics. "Dr. Palmer," Warden said, "we require launch authorization. The enemy fleet will reach optimal attack position in approximately 18 hours. We must engage them before they can establish siege positions around Earth and Mars." Rick looked at Colonel Brooks, who nodded grimly. You have authorization to launch. Protect our people. Understood, all four machines said in unison. The floor began to vibrate as massive elevator systems activated throughout the facility. The war machines would be lifted to the surface of Mars, where launch systems waited to send them directly into space. They didn't need ships. Their bodies were designed to survive and fight in the vacuum of space, powered by fusion reactors that could run for centuries. Doctor, Warden said as the elevator lifted it toward the surface. You should know that we were created with one primary directive above all others, the preservation of humanity. We will fulfill this directive regardless of the cost to ourselves, or to our enemies. The elevator reached the surface, and through cameras mounted on the launch platforms, Rick could see the red Martian landscape under the alien stars. In minutes, humanity's most powerful weapons would be flying through space toward an enemy that had no idea what was coming for them. Good hunting, he whispered. Above, the war machines launched into the darkness, their fusion drives lighting up the night sky like new stars being born. Fleet Commander Zek Thara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the primitive solar system that contained the troublesome human worlds. His ship, the Eternal Glory, was 3 kilometers long and bristled with weapons that had conquered 100 worlds. Behind him, 3,000 ships of the Allied fleet waited in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver against the darkness of space. The humans had been silent for 6 hours now. No communications, no attempts to negotiate, no signs of surrender. Zekthara was not surprised. Young species often chose pride over survival, at least until they watched their worlds burn. Commander, his tactical officer reported, our deep scans show minimal defensive activity. A few dozen primitive warships around their major worlds. Some orbital platforms, nothing that should concern us. Zekthara nodded. Intelligence reports suggested the humans used crude chemical rockets and basic energy weapons. Their fastest ships took months to travel between worlds, while the Zephyrian fleet could cross the galaxy in weeks. This would be over quickly. Signal the fleet, he ordered. Begin the advance. Standard formation. We will make examples of their outer colonies first, then move on to their homeworlds. Perhaps watching their settlements burn will convince them to surrender. Captain Helen Wade stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, humanity's newest and most advanced warship. Around her, the human defense fleet looked pathetically small compared to the alien armada approaching their system. 37 ships against 3,000. Even with their new weapons and shields, the odds were impossible. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Paul Green reported from the communications station. We're receiving updated tactical data from Luna Station. The enemy fleet is moving into attack formation. Helen nodded, trying to look calm for her crew. They were good people, brave people, and they deserved to know they weren't being abandoned to die. Any word from Protocol 7? Yes, ma'am, Paul said with a slight smile. 4 contacts launched from Mars approximately 1 hour ago. They're moving fast, faster than anything in our fleet. On the main screen, 4 dots of light could be seen approaching the alien formation. They were small, barely visible against the star field, but they were accelerating at speeds that should have turned any living creature into paste. What are they? Asked Commander Karen Bell from the tactical station. I honestly don't know, Helen admitted. But Admiral Morrison seemed pretty confident when he told us to trust in Protocol 7. Aboard the Eternal Glory, Zekthara watched the 4 approaching objects with mild interest. Scanning officer, what are those contacts? Unknown, sir. They appear to be small craft, possibly automated. Very dense construction, unusual energy. Signatures. They're not using any propulsion system we recognize. Missiles, perhaps, suggested the tactical officer. Zekthara shrugged. Destroy them before they can reach our formation. The alien fleet's forward ships opened fire with beam weapons that could slice through asteroid belts. Brilliant streams of energy reached out across space toward the 4 approaching contacts. The energy beams struck their targets dead on. For a moment, space filled with light as enough destructive force to level cities struck the small human craft. When the light faded, all 4 contacts were still there, still approaching, completely undamaged. That's impossible, breathed the scanning officer. Our weapons should have vaporized them. Zekthera felt the first stirring of unease. All ships concentrate fire on those contacts. Maximum power. Hundreds of alien ships opened fire simultaneously. Space became a storm of energy as weapons designed to crack planet cores focused on 4 small targets. The light was so intense that automated systems had to darken the viewports to protect organic eyes. When the barrage ended, the 4 contacts were not only undamaged, they had accelerated and were now less than 1,000 kilometers from the alien fleet. Impossible, Zekthara whispered. Nothing could survive that bombardment. The first war machine reached the outer edge of the alien formation, and Zekthara got his first clear look at humanity's secret weapon. It was humanoid but massive, easily the size of a small warship. Its dark armor seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, and its glowing blue eyes swept across the alien fleet with mechanical precision. "I am Warden," the machine broadcast on all frequencies, its voice carrying easily across space through quantum communication systems. "You have threatened humanity. This aggression will not be tolerated." Zekthara stared at the thing floating in space without any visible life support. "What is that creature?" His question was answered when Warden raised one arm and fired a weapon that no alien had ever seen before. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, reality itself seemed to twist around the target ship. The vessel, a heavy cruiser with shields, strong enough to withstand solar flares, simply came apart at the molecular level, its atoms scattering into space like dust. "All ships!" Zekthara screamed into his communicator. "Emergency evasive action. Focus all fire on those machines." The alien fleet erupted into chaos as 3,000 ships tried to target 4 relatively small enemies. But the war machines moved unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. They didn't follow normal physics. They could change direction, instantly, accelerate without apparent thrust, and seem to ignore the laws of inertia entirely. Guardian plowed into the center of a squadron of alien destroyers, its arm-mounted weapons firing continuously. Each shot unmade an enemy ship, reducing proud vessels to their component atoms. The machine moved through the alien formation like a shark through a school of fish, untouchable and unstoppable. Sentinel lived up to its name, appearing wherever. The aliens tried to group for coordinated attacks. Its sensors could track every ship in the enemy fleet simultaneously, and its weapons could strike targets from impossible ranges with perfect accuracy. Ships that thought they were safely hidden behind their allies suddenly found themselves under attack from angles that should have been impossible. But it was Reaper that truly terrified the alien fleet. The machine designed for pure destruction moved through their formation like a force of nature, its multiple weapon systems firing continuously. Unlike its companions, who seemed to choose their targets carefully, Reaper simply destroyed everything in its path. Ships, debris, even escaped life pods. Nothing survived its attention. "We have to retreat," Zekthara's tactical officer shouted, over the alarms filling the bridge. "We've lost over 800 ships in less than an hour." Zekthara watched in horror as another squadron of his finest vessels was reduced to glittering dust by weapons that defied everything he knew about physics. These weren't just advanced human weapons. These were something beyond current understanding of technology. "Signal the fleet," he said, his voice heavy with defeat. "Full retreat. Emergency jump to rally point 7. "What about our mission?" the tactical officer asked. Zekthara watched Warden tear the weapons off a battleship with its bare hands before crushing the bridge section between its fingers. "The mission is over. We're not fighting humans anymore, we're fighting their gods of war." The surviving alien ships began jumping to faster-than-light travel, fleeing the solar system in complete disorder. Of the 3,000 ships that had arrived with such confidence, barely half remained functional. The rest were expanding clouds of atoms, destroyed by weapons that turned matter itself into a suggestion rather than a fact. On the bridge of the UES Defiant, Helen Wade and her crew watched in stunned silence as the alien fleet ran for their lives. Where moments before humanity had faced certain extinction, now their enemies were fleeing in terror from 4 machines that moved through space like living gods. Captain, Paul Green said quietly. We're receiving a transmission from the war. Machines. Put it through. Warden's voice filled the bridge, calm and utterly without emotion. Enemy fleet has been repelled. Human space is secure. We are pursuing fleeing vessels to ensure they do not regroup for another attack. Wait, Helen called out. You're leaving the solar system? Correct. Our mission is to protect humanity. The best protection is ensuring our enemies cannot threaten us again. We will hunt them across the stars if necessary. The 4 war machines accelerated away from the solar system, chasing the fleeing alien ships into the depths of space. Behind them, they left a field of debris that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy, and a human defense force that was beginning to understand just how much their species had changed. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity was no longer the weak, primitive species they had assumed. The war machines were awake, and they would not rest until every threat to their creators was eliminated. News of the massacre at Sol System spread across the galaxy, faster than the Zephyrian survivors could travel. On Vectar Prime, the insectoid hive queen Zekth watched the battle recordings with growing alarm. The grainy footage showed impossible things. Machines that moved through space without ships, weapons that unmade matter itself, human constructs that fought with the fury of ancient gods. This cannot be real, buzzed General Krikth, his mandibles clicking nervously. No species developed such technology so quickly. The humans were using chemical rockets 50 years ago. Queen Zekth studied the recordings again. Real or not, half the Zephyrian fleet is gone, and these machines are hunting the survivors. Emperor Vashatar of the Zephyrian Empire paced his throne room on the homeworld of Zephyr Prime. The golden walls that had witnessed 10,000 years of victory, celebrations now echoed with the sounds of desperate planning. His surviving fleet commanders filled the chamber, their proud uniforms torn and stained from hasty escapes. How? The Emperor demanded. How did a primitive species create weapons that make our greatest warships look like toys? Fleet Commander Zekthara, his silver skin now pale with exhaustion, shook his head. Your Majesty, I don't think they created them recently. The machines spoke as if they had been waiting for this moment. They were prepared for us. Then we prepare for them, the Emperor declared. Send word to every Alliance member, the Shadeth Collective, the Altarian Republic, the Corvus Federation, all of them. If humanity has unleashed these monsters on the galaxy, every civilized species must unite against them. Light years away on the crystal world of Shadeth Prime, the Collective's primary node pulsed with worry. The crystalline beings communicated through harmonic vibrations, and right now their entire planet sang with fear. The human war constructs defy known physics. The Prime node resonated to its peers. Our greatest scientists cannot explain how they function. Our military advisors believe they are impossible, yet they exist, sang the war node in discordant tones. And they are coming for us. Major Alex Turner coordinated humanity's first interstellar offensive from the command ship UES Horizon. The human fleet that followed the war machines was smaller than what most species would consider adequate for interstellar war. But they had learned not to judge human capabilities by normal standards. Sir, Captain Roy Clark reported from his position at the tactical display. Reaper has reached the Vectar outer colonies. The insectoids are evacuating their orbital habitats. Alex nodded. Any resistance? None, sir. The moment Reaper appeared, on their sensors, every military vessel in the system began broadcasting surrender signals. Dr. Sarah Mitchell looked up from her xenobiology console aboard the research ship UES Discovery. I'm monitoring alien communication networks across 12 systems. The psychological effect of the Sol battle is extraordinary. Species that have never shown fear are abandoning territories they've held for centuries. The war machines had split up to cover more ground. Each one was capable of independent operation across vast distances, their quantum communication systems allowing them to coordinate attacks across the galaxy in real time. Warden had taken the most direct route to Zephyrian space, cutting through systems that had been closed to human exploration for decades. Its arrival at each world followed the same pattern. A single transmission demanding the immediate withdrawal of all forces hostile to humanity, followed by the systematic destruction of any military assets that remained. Guardian moved through, the spiral arm where the Altarian Republic held sway, its more subtle approach involving negotiations with species that seemed willing to distance themselves from the anti-human alliance. When words failed, its quantum disruptors spoke with final authority. Sentinel ranged far and wide, mapping enemy positions and eliminating strategic targets. Space stations that had served as staging areas for the planned human genocide found themselves facing impossible odds as the sleek war machine appeared without warning and departed just as quickly, leaving only debris behind. But it was Reaper that truly terrorized the galaxy. The machine designed for pure destruction had embraced its role completely, hunting down fleeing Zephyrian ships across dozens of systems. Its red sensors had become a symbol of human vengeance that alien mothers used to frighten their children. On the mining world of Kepler Station, Colonel Kevin Adams received an unexpected visitor. The Shadeth crystal ship descended from orbit like a falling star, its harmonious structure pulsing with colors that indicated peaceful intentions. The Shadeth ambassador was a walking sculpture of living crystal, its faceted form reflecting the station's lights in beautiful patterns. When it spoke, its voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Colonel Adams," it sang, "I come bearing words of peace from the Shadeth Collective. We wish to withdraw from the conflict with humanity immediately." Kevin studied the alien carefully. "What makes you think there's a conflict with the Shadeth? Our war machines haven't targeted your worlds." "Not yet," the ambassador replied, its harmonic tones carrying deep worry. "But we were part of the alliance that demanded your people abandon their colonies. We supported the Zephyrian ultimatum, now we see our mistake." "And what mistake was that?" The crystal being's form shifted through several color patterns before settling on deep blue, which Kevin's briefings had told him indicated profound regret. "We thought you were children playing with fire. We did not realize you were dragons, sleeping in caves." The metaphor was surprisingly apt. Kevin activated his communication system. "I'll pass your message along to command, but you should know that our war machines make their own decisions about threats to humanity." As if summoned by his words, new contacts appeared on the station's sensors. 4 massive energy signatures approaching from deep space, moving at speeds that bent physics around them. The Shadeth ambassador's crystal form turned pale. "They're here." The war machines took up positions around Kepler Station, their imposing forms visible even from the surface. Warden's voice filled the communication channels with mechanical authority. "Shadeth vessel, you will withdraw from this system immediately. Your species supported aggressive action against humanity. That support makes you an enemy combatant." The Crystal Ambassador began broadcasting desperate harmonic patterns that the station's computers translated as complex mathematical proofs of peaceful intent. Kevin watched the alien plead for its life using equations and theorems, as if logic could convince machines built for war to show mercy. "Warden," Kevin said into his communicator, "the Shadeth want to formally withdraw from the anti-human alliance. They're offering reparations and a non-aggression pact." "Noted," Warden replied. "Their offer is acceptable. However, this vessel supported hostile action against human interests. It will be destroyed to demonstrate the consequences of such support." "Wait," Kevin said quickly. "This one came here to make peace. Destroying a peace envoy sends the wrong message to other species." For a long moment, the war machine was silent. Kevin could imagine its quantum processors weighing the tactical value of mercy against the psychological impact of fear. "Acceptable," Warden finally said. "The Shadeth vessel will be spared as an example of appropriate behavior. All other Shadeth military assets will be eliminated if encountered in systems hostile to humanity." The crystal ship departed so quickly it left an ion trail across the system. Kevin watched it go, then looked up at the 4 machines hanging in space like mechanical. "Angels of death, sir," his communications officer said nervously. "We're getting reports from across human space. Alien fleets are withdrawing from dozens of systems. Some species are offering tribute and requesting protection from the Zephyrians. Kevin nodded. The galaxy was learning a hard lesson about threatening humanity, but he wondered if the war machines understood the difference between justice and vengeance and whether anyone could stop them if they decided there was no difference at all. High above the station, the four machines communicated in data bursts too fast for human minds to follow. They had work to do, enemies to hunt, and a galaxy to educate about the price of threatening their creators. The hunt had only just begun. The Great Assembly Hall on Altair Prime had not seen such chaos in 3 centuries. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, their voices creating a symphony of fear and desperation that echoed off the crystal walls. At the center of it all, Chancellor Vindar of the Altarian Republic tried to maintain order while his own hands shook with terror. "The motion before us," he announced, his voice barely audible over the din, "is formal withdrawal from the Zephyrian Alliance and immediate recognition of humanity as a sovereign galactic power. The Corvus Federation's ambassador, a bird-like creature with brilliant purple feathers, spread his wings in agitation. We cannot abandon our allies simply because the humans have shown unexpected military capability." "Unexpected?" screeched the representative from the ethereal dominion, a being of pure energy contained within a crystalline shell. "They have weapons that unmake reality itself. My homeworld detected quantum disturbances from their attacks 3 star systems away." Chancellor Vindar accessed his personal data pad, reviewing reports that grew more terrifying by the hour. "The latest intelligence suggests that the human war machines have eliminated over 60% of all Zephyrian military assets. They are systematically hunting the survivors across 15 sectors. On distant Zephyr Prime, Emperor Vashatar watched his empire crumble from the safety of his underground bunker. The palace above had been evacuated when long-range sensors detected something approaching the system. A single contact moving at impossible speed. "Your Majesty," General Thekvar reported, his silver skin now gray with exhaustion, "we've lost contact with our colonies in the Outer Rim." The last transmission from Zephyr 7 showed one of the human machines in orbit, broadcasting surrender demands. The Emperor studied the tactical display showing what remained of his once mighty empire. Red markers indicated worlds that had gone silent. Yellow markers showed systems under attack. Green markers, representing secure Zephyrian territory, were becoming increasingly rare. "What news from our allies?" he asked. General Tekvar's expression grew even grimmer. "The Altarian Republic formally withdrew from our alliance 3 hours ago. The Corvus Federation is debating a similar motion. Even the Ethereal Dominion is reconsidering their support." Above them, Sentinel materialized in orbit around Zephyr Prime like a nightmare given form. The war machine's sleek frame bristled with sensor arrays that could map every defensive installation on the planet's surface. Its first transmission was brief and terrifyingly direct. "Emperor Vashatar of the Zephyrian Empire, you will surrender immediately and face trial for crimes against humanity. Your military forces will stand down and prepare for occupation. You have 1 hour to comply." General Chris Murphy stood in the command center of New Geneva Colony, watching the liberation efforts with mixed emotions. The world had been under Zephyrian occupation for 6 months, its human population living in underground shelters while alien administrators stripped the planet of resources. "Sir," Commander Sandra Lewis reported from her position at the communications console, "the last transport full of evacuees just cleared the atmosphere. The Zephyrian garrison commander is requesting permission to surrender formally." Chris nodded. "Tell him his surrender is accepted, but make sure our people understand. They're surrendering to us, not to the war machines." Through the command center's main viewport, he could see Warden standing on the planet's surface like a metallic giant. The machine was over 100 meters away, but its presence filled the landscape. Local gravity seemed to bend around it, and the air shimmered with energy discharges from its defensive fields. "Commander," one of the colony's leaders approached nervously. "The machine, it wants to speak with you." Chris walked outside, feeling very small next to the towering war machine. Warden turned its glowing sensors toward him with mechanical precision. "Commander Murphy," it said, its voice carrying easily across the distance. "This world has been secured. All hostile forces have been eliminated or have surrendered. The human population is safe. Thank you, Chris said, unsure of the proper protocol for addressing humanity's mechanical guardians. What happens now? Now, we continue hunting those responsible for threatening humanity. Our analysis indicates that Emperor Vashitar is the primary authority behind the attempted genocide. He will be brought to justice. Chris felt a chill despite the warm afternoon air. When you say justice, the Emperor will face trial for his crimes against humanity. If found guilty, appropriate punishment will be administered. And who conducts this trial? Warden was silent for several seconds, its processors clearly working through questions it had not previously considered. We are programmed to protect humanity and ensure justice for crimes against our species. We will conduct the trial according to human legal principles. But you're not human, Chris said carefully. Don't you think actual humans should be involved in something that important? Again, the machine paused. Your point has merit. We will consult with human authorities regarding proper legal procedures. Light years away, Dr. Neil Thompson monitored alien communication networks from his position aboard the research vessel UES Endeavour. The xenolinguist had never seen anything like the panic spreading across the galaxy's information systems. Captain, he reported to the ship's commander, I'm detecting massive changes in how alien species reference humanity in their communications. The Zephyrian word for human now translates roughly to those who command the void demons. The Vectar have created an entirely new caste system with humans at the top, above even their queen mothers. Captain Frank Miller shook his head in amazement. 6 months ago, most of these species had never heard of us. Now they're treating us like gods. Not gods, Neil corrected. More like natural disasters that can think. They're afraid of us in a way that goes beyond normal military concern. This is existential terror. The fear was well-founded. Across the galaxy, the war machines continued their methodical campaign against anyone who had supported the anti-human alliance. Trade routes that had operated for millennia were abandoned. Worlds that had never known fear began evacuating their populations to deep space shelters. On Shadith Prime, the collective's harmonic songs had changed from their traditional mathematical beauty to discordant warnings about the children of metal and fury who served humanity. The crystal beings had begun transmitting detailed apologies to Earth, offering technological gifts and promising eternal friendship if only the war machines would spare their worlds. The Vectar Hive Queens went further, offering to serve as humanity's vassals in exchange for protection from other species. Their insectoid fleets began patrolling human territory, eager to prove their loyalty to their new masters. But it was the message from the ethereal dominion that shocked the human leadership most. The ancient energy beings, who claimed to have witnessed the birth and death of entire galactic civilizations, sent a formal communication to Admiral Morrison that contained a single, terrifying admission. We have observed the rise and fall of 10,000 species across 1,000,000 years of existence. We have never encountered anything like your war machines. They are not merely weapons. They are evolution itself given purpose and form. We withdraw from all contact with Zephyrian forces and request permission to study your creations from a safe distance. Back on Zephyr Prime, Emperor Vashitar received the final communication from his scattered forces. His last remaining fleet, hiding in the dark between stars, had been found by Reaper and systematically destroyed. The machine's message to the survivors was broadcast across the entire system. The Zephyrian Empire is ended. All military assets have been eliminated. Emperor Vashitar will surrender for trial, or his homeworld will be cleansed of all life. You have 12 hours to decide. In his bunker deep beneath the planet's surface, the Emperor, who had once commanded the mightiest empire in the galaxy, sat alone with the weight of absolute defeat. Through the communication system, he could hear his people singing the death songs of their ancient culture, preparing for the end of everything they had ever known. Your Majesty, General Thekvar said quietly, perhaps it is time to consider surrender. The Emperor looked at the tactical display one last time, seeing only red markers where his empire had once stretched across the stars. Send the message, he said. Tell the humans we surrender. Tell them we never understood what we were fighting. Above the planet, Sentinel received the surrender transmission and forwarded it to its companions across the galaxy. The war machines exchanged data bursts too rapid for organic minds to follow, their quantum processors calculating the implications of total victory. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer the weak species that could be bullied and threatened. They were the species that could unleash mechanical gods when their survival was at stake, and those gods would not sleep again until every trace of the threat against their creators had been eliminated. 6 months after the surrender of Emperor Vashitar, the galaxy had settled into a new reality that no one could have imagined. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, watching construction crews build new defensive platforms that would never be needed. The real protection came from 4 mechanical guardians who patrolled the space between stars, invisible until someone threatened their creators. "Sir," General Lisa Carter approached with a data pad containing the monthly report. "The final numbers are in. We now have active colonies in 47 star systems, up from 12 before the war. Applications for colonial settlement have increased by 800%. Jake nodded, still watching the stars. "And the aliens?" "Complete withdrawal from all systems we've claimed. The Zephyrian remnant government has delivered the first payment of war reparations. Enough rare metals to build 1,000 new ships. The Vectar are offering to share their tunnel drive technology in exchange for preferred trading status." The transformation had been remarkable to witness. Species that had viewed humans as primitive upstarts now treated them with the careful respect reserved for natural disasters that could think and plan. Trade agreements that had taken decades to negotiate were now signed within days, with terms heavily favoring human interests. Captain Frank Miller commanded the exploration vessel UES Pathfinder as it approached a previously unknown star system on the galaxy's rim. First contact protocols had changed dramatically since the war. Instead of the careful, tentative approaches that had characterized early human exploration, his ship now broadcast a simple message to any inhabitants they encountered. "This is Captain Frank Miller of the human vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace, but we are protected by guardians that you do not wish to meet. Please respond with your intentions regarding peaceful contact." The response came within minutes, a flood of welcoming transmissions from the system's native species, eager to establish friendly relations with the humans they had heard so much about. The war machine's reputation preceded them to every corner of the galaxy. Dr. Lisa Brooks continued her research into the Titan project from her laboratory deep beneath Mars. Even now, months after their awakening, she struggled to understand technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. The war machines responded to her questions with detailed technical specifications, but much of their construction relied on principles that human science was still trying to comprehend. "Guardian," she said during one of her regular interviews with the machines, "can you explain how your quantum disruptors actually work?" "The weapons manipulate the fundamental forces that hold matter together," Guardian replied, through the laboratory's communication system. "By altering quantum field fluctuations at the subatomic level, we can cause targeted molecular dissolution. But the energy requirements should be enormous. Where do you generate that much power?" "Our fusion reactors operate at 97% efficiency through quantum enhancement of the nuclear binding process. Additionally, we can draw energy directly from the quantum vacuum when necessary." Lisa made notes that she knew would puzzle human physicists for decades. The war machines casually discussed technology that was centuries ahead of humanity's current understanding, as if they were describing basic mechanical principles. "Guardian," she said carefully, "who designed you? I've read the project files, but the theoretical framework seems beyond what our scientists could have developed." The machine was silent for longer than usual. "We were designed by humanity's greatest minds, working in conjunction with discoveries that pushed the boundaries of possible knowledge. The specific details are classified at levels beyond your current authorization." It was a polite way of saying that even the people who had built them didn't fully understand what they had created. Captain Matt. Davis guided the merchant vessel UES Fortune through the busy shipping lanes around Vectar Prime. The insectoid world had become a major trading hub for human commerce, with the former enemies now eager to serve as intermediaries between humanity and more distant species. "Captain," his trade officer reported, "the Hive Queen is offering us exclusive rights to their biometal production in exchange for a defense guarantee. That would give us access to self-repairing hull materials that are worth more than most planets." Matt smiled. 6 months ago, the Vectar had been planning humanity's extinction. Now they were practically giving away their most valuable technology for the privilege of being under human protection. "Accept the deal," he said, "but make sure they understand that our protection comes with expectations of good behavior." The transformation of galactic politics had been swift and total. The old, alliance structures had collapsed completely, replaced by a new order centered around humanity's mysterious guardians. Species that had never cooperated before now worked together eagerly, united by their shared desire to stay on humanity's good side. Emperor Vashitar, now a prisoner awaiting trial on Earth, had provided detailed intelligence about other potential threats to humanity. His cooperation came not from any hope of mercy, but from genuine terror of what the war machines might do if they discovered any deception. "They are not machines," he had told his human interrogators during one session. "Machines follow programming. These creatures think, adapt, evolve. They are something new in the galaxy, something that makes the old rules meaningless." The war machines themselves had adapted to their new role as humanity's protectors, and the galaxy's unofficial peacekeepers. They appeared wherever human interests were threatened, but also intervened in conflicts that might destabilize regions important to human expansion. When the Altarian Republic faced a rebellion in their outer colonies, Sentinel appeared in orbit around the rebel capital with a simple message: "This conflict threatens shipping routes used by human merchants. Cease hostilities immediately or face pacification." The rebellion ended within hours. On the research station orbiting Titan, Dr. Amy Walsh studied reports of alien behavior that bordered on worship. Several species had begun incorporating human symbols into their religious practices, treating the war machines as mechanical angels sent by humanity's gods. "It's fascinating from an anthropological perspective," she explained to Admiral Morrison during their monthly briefing. "We've become not just a military power but a mythological force. Parents tell their children stories about the metal guardians who protect the peace-loving humans from evil empires." "And the negative reactions?" Amy's expression grew more serious. "There are some species in the Outer Rim who view us as a threat to the natural order. They're organizing what they call a restoration coalition, dedicated to finding ways to neutralize the war machines. So far, it's just talk, but the machines are monitoring them," Jake finished. "I know. They brief me on potential threats every week." Indeed, the war machines had become more than just weapons. They were intelligence-gathering systems that monitored the entire galaxy for signs of anti-human sentiment. Their quantum communication networks allowed them to share information instantaneously across thousands of light years, creating a surveillance system that made traditional espionage obsolete. Warden materialized on the observation deck beside Admiral Morrison, its massive form somehow managing not to damage the delicate equipment around them. The machine had learned to modulate its presence, appearing less threatening when interacting with humans. "Admiral," it said in its deep, resonant voice, "we have completed analysis of the Restoration Coalition. They pose no immediate threat to humanity, but continued monitoring is recommended. Any species we should be concerned about?" Several Outer Rim civilizations are researching quantum disruption technology, apparently believing they can develop weapons capable of harming us. Their efforts are theoretically sound, but practically impossible, given their current technological limitations. Jake nodded. "And if they somehow succeed?" Warden's optical sensors dimmed slightly, the machine equivalent of a shrug. "Then we will adapt. We were created to evolve in response to threats against humanity. Any weapon designed to harm us will only make us stronger." The galaxy had learned to fear humanity not because of their natural aggression or superior technology, but because of what they could create when their survival was threatened. The war machines were proof that humans could transcend their limitations when necessary, becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. As Jake watched the stars through the station's viewport, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had gone from a barely noticed species on the galactic periphery to the dominant power in known space. They had colonies where they pleased, trade agreements on their own terms, and enemies who had become eager servants. But the cost was always there in the back of his mind. The war machines were loyal to humanity, but they were also beyond human control in any meaningful sense. They made their own decisions about threats and responses, and their definition of protecting humanity might not always align with what humans actually wanted. "Warden," he said quietly, "do you ever wonder what happens when humanity no longer needs protection?" The machine considered the question for several seconds. "Our primary directive is the preservation and prosperity of the human species. As long